The humanities departments in all Australian universities need to be disbanded and the departments established again. The very famous play by Edward Albee called Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is all about getting rid of illusions and then starting again, expecting there would be new illusions, but they wouldn't be as bad as the old ones. George is the only one that doesn't have substantial illusions. He's not perfect. But Martha and the young couple that come to visit are just full of delusions. Illusions that are just inappropriate. That's what good literature does. It dispels stupidity, but doesn't claim to be absolutely free of stupidities. Now, what's happened in the West, in the humanities departments in particular, and why it's a worry, is that everything eventually flows down from humanities departments. Isaac Bezmenov, but also the cultural Marxists, the Frankfurt School, have managed to have a huge impact. And people like Freire in Brazil, who's related to these groups, they realized socialism couldn't win, Russia couldn't win against the West. They couldn't replace the economics, they couldn't replace the way things are organized, they couldn't replace the forms of government in Western Europe and America, and they still hated them because they're obsessed with socialism. That's where everything is owned by the government. You can own your own house maybe, but you can't run a company, you can't employ people. Everything is owned, administered by the government. Now, so what happened was the cultural Marxists and other people infected Western universities and caused all kinds of problems. It's amazing they were able to do it. They did pair with the Muslim or Islamic group like Qatar, whom they have really nothing in common with, but what they have in common, the one thing, is they hate the West. And they hate true liberalism. The irony is Marx, who kicked all this stuff off, although there were other people with these ideas, he could only find a satisfactory life in England, the home of democracy and free thought and capitalism. So these departments affect education, training of teachers, they affect training of journalists, training of lawyers, and they infiltrate even into technical or scientific areas like engineering and medicine, of course. And the women are the foot soldiers of this movement. It's bringing society down. When society is too religious, that's a major illusion. When society is too cultural Marxist, postmodernist, victim, predator, oppressed, unoppressed, or oppressed and oppressor, and they're the only models. It just doesn't work. It becomes sick. So we have to gut all these university departments and probably others. The public service has been greatly infected by all this stuff. And woke is a good example of these stupidities that can't be backed up by any kind of real science. The ABC, which is the government broadcasting radio and television, has been greatly affected by this cultural Marxism, this ideology. And as there are increasing numbers of women in this space, this area, they are the ones that are usually more influenced, though not all, by things like this ideology. Women, as George Orwell said, are the foot soldiers of the new oppression. That's happened in the mayoral elections in New York, according to me. The biggest change in voting for Mandami was that over 80%, probably late 80s, young women between 16 and 29 voted for Mandami, which is socialism and Islam. Weird that the Twin Towers were just attacked by Islamic terrorists only 25 years ago. It's kind of madness. But I guess the new generations have different ways of looking at things. There's no eternal good sense. Now, what's the problem? Marxism isn't scientific. It claims to be. The new ideologies stress feeling and compassion over logic, long-term consequences, and those kinds of things. Science is to be ignored if it doesn't match ideology and feeling. That's old-fashioned Russian stuff. That's old-fashioned dictator stuff. Now, the West is not perfect. Capitalism isn't perfect. But all real progress hasn't been driven, for the most part, by government. It's been driven by private individuals, private groups. Russia only ever had a space program. No one was interested in their cars, their tractors, their watches, their cameras. In Cuba, they had a good health program, but that was it. The rest of society was in poverty. Capitalism isn't perfect. Far from it. And there are good and bad capitalist societies. But where does everyone want to go? Even black people? Capitalist America. So the feet tell us something. So, what's wrong with the current situation? Women are having a great impact through woke. And this is the first time they've had a great impact. So feelings count. Making everyone equal in outcome seems to count. So it's not that women are bad, it's just that what they want is sometimes not really practical. This is pretty hard for me, and a lot of people won't like it because we're in a pro-female stage and a toxic male stage. If you stood on the top of Sydney Harbour Bridge and pointed to what roads, buildings and other things you can see were built by women, you wouldn't be able to point to any. Sure, women have done the background. They've looked after husbands, they've fed people, but they haven't done anything substantial. They can, but they don't want to do that.